In today's unboxing, we take a look at Circle Undone Deluxe Expansion for ARkham Horror the card game by Fantasy Flight Games. Let's take a look.
There are hobbyists among us, geniuses with the ability to play any game they want to. In 1978, a corporation known as The Interior isolated a young hobbyist named John and exploited his genius for their entertainment.
Then one day, their hobbyist ran away.
Here I have the Circle Undone Deluxe Expansion for ARkham Horror, the core game by Fantasy Flight Games. This is one of their deluxe expansions. That means this is going to have the new Investigators, the new class cards, and then the first couple scenarios prior to the Mythos packs. Let's go ahead and flip it over. So here it's letting us know the contents of the box, an example of what some of the cards looks like. Of course, it has the scan here, so you can scan this and take a look at what all the cards are. So I have no problem showing you every single one of the cards. I will split it off into two different sections. The Investigators, basically the non-spoiler type cards first, and then all of the more campaign cards, after a brief little intermission. So if you do want to stay spoiler free, I want to make sure that I keep that option open for you. But then especially since they do just have it so you can scan this to see all the cards, let's go ahead and take a look at them all. Got a little bit of a lore going on here for the Circle Undone, and one of the really nice things is it also lets you know which card sleeves you would need for this. Now, of course, it is for the Fantasy Flight supplies, so it's just the gray and yellow, but you can very easily go on there, find out what these are. Standard American, standard American small, if that's what they are. I think that's what those are. But then once you know exactly what it is, whether it's like, say, standard American or standard European, you can then go off and get whatever card sleeve brand you want, just making sure you're getting that style of sleeve. ARkham Horror, the card game. The Circle Undone. Behind everything crouched the brooding, festering horror of the ancient town, and of the moldy, unhallowed garnet gable where he wrote and studied. H.P. Lovecraft, the dreams in the witch house. Judgment, temperance, justice, the tower. The soothsayer's tarot wove a tale of a grim future, hard to put out of your mind. But when you learn that 4 people have disappeared without a trace from an estate in French Hill, you begin to wonder if this cruel fate is meant only for you or for the entirety of Arkham. In the Circle Undone, 1 to 4 investigators delve into the mysteries of Arkham's past, uncovering its macabre history and the motives of those who dwell in its shadows. This expansion contains a playable prologue, the first 2 scenarios of the Circle Undone campaign, as well as new Investigator and player cards that increase the customization options of the game. ARkham Horror the card game is a cooperative card game in which players take on the role of investigators, unraveling the terrifying Eldritch mystery. Well, that sounds absolutely fantastic. I can't wait to dive into this and take a look at the cards and see what all we have. One of the other things that I really like the idea about the set is the playable prologue. I'm guessing that's going to be a nice short little investigation. It will probably be absolutely fantastic to bring new players into the game. So that is really awesome. Once again, we're going to be splitting this up into 2 different sections. a spoiler-free and a spoiler-filled unboxing, where most of our Investigator and player cards are going to be in the spoiler-free edition in the first half of the unboxing, because that's the parts that you'll be using to customize your deck. Everybody can see that. Then the second half, after a brief little intermission, will be all of the rest of the cards. They will be the scenario cards, the room cards, all of those kind of things. Stuff that if you want to stay spoiler free on, you would definitely want to avoid. Well, let's go ahead and crack this open and take a look inside and see what all we have. Like most of these deluxe boxes, we have that normal just filler thing, and I'm guessing, yep, here we have the instructions. We'll take a look at that, and then all of our cards. Everything's gone, so here we go. And then all of our cards with our classic blue dot to let us know that this is the English edition. And then here's going to be our character cards, all of our mythos, and then some more character cards. So we'll go ahead and crack all of these open. Let's just go ahead and start right here. Look at these, because these are just the ones for playing in the game to mark your character's movement around. So these are the small size for when you're active and when you're not. There we go. Ton of Investigators. I love it. And then on to the rule book. Now, of course, here we are going to definitely make sure that we stop once we get into that spoiler section. We definitely don't want to get that, but then of course that part will be the first half going forward. Then wait, so yep, so this will be as much as we look at now, where the rest will go into our spoiler edition. Very cool. Well, up first, we're going to have our Investigator cards. Now, all of the player cards or Investigator cards are going to have this same common back right here. And within all of your Investigator cards, come on, there we go. They do say, for building the deck, there are going to be a couple cards that are required in here. Now, for her, she actually has 3, where most Investigators will have 2 cards. So there are her 3 default cards for her deck, and then her card. And the Investigator cards themselves are double-sided. So you kind of have the build side on one and a little bit of the lore, and then the play side on the other. And then of course she has her little minifig card. And the rest of the Investigators will just go through more of a slideshow showing their 2 cards and their Investigator. Well, first up, we are going to have, again, the continuation of our Investigator cards. All of these are going to be the ones to use to build the deck, to build everything else. There are multiple different classes. So we're going to start off here by showing you the uncommon, the unclass. There are 2 of those. And then there are always basic weaknesses that you might potentially have to add. So they have add in a couple new basic weaknesses. Oh, that was so hard to say. And now on to the rest. Well, that is everything that you get for the Circle Undone Deluxe Expansion for Arkham Horror, the card game. Now that is where we are going to stop for the spoiler-free section. So if you want to stay spoiler-free, now would be the time to stop the video and move on until you've gotten into it and maybe you want to see a little more. But if you do want to see all the rest of the cards, we are about to get into the rest of the rule book, and then the treachery and the scenario cards. It also has the locations in there. So if you want to see everything, here it's coming up next. Alright, so let's dive into the full look through of the rule book here. Now that we're in our spoiler section, so we're not worried about showing anything we shouldn't be. And once again, it does go for those campaign setups. It's always very nice. The prologue. This is one of the ones that I was really interested in looking into as its potential to be a good break-in point for new players. And then your setup. And then on to scenario 1. Scenario 2. Interlude, very cool. Do not read unless you're being haunted. That is great. And then our stats card, where you write everything down and your progression. Now these right here are usually always available on their website for you to download, so you don't actually have to write in your book. You can download these and print them off. So you want to make sure that you get out and do that. And then here we have the missing persons. So that would have been those other cards that we looked at. So I was wondering where these guys came from, being that there was 4 extras then in the Investigator that we just flipped through. So that's what those are. Very cool. And then the icons and credits and all. And here we are going to have our Mythos cards, and that's not good. And here we're going to have our Mythos cards. They're going to have our things like the treacheries, the monsters, villains, all those kind of things that you are going to face during your investigation as you go on. And you can see they all have those icons they were talking about. So each chapters might use different ones. So as you are building this deck, it'll tell you to get all the cards from the certain sets. So that's how you're going to know which ones to get. And then here we have our scenario cards. Now these are all going to have different fronts and backs, so we're just going to flip as we go through so you can see the front and then the back, so forth and so on. Now this first one gives what you would do for a easy standard, and then its opposite side if you wanted to play it under hard or expert mode. Oh, and then here we have those other characters that we saw. It'd be interesting to see how they turn up within this expansion. Nope, I did not. Very cool. I love that, how they actually have player cards and everything with the setups and everything you'd want to see. That's interesting. And then we're trying to get some of those locations for this scenario. And the next scenario, again letting us know easy and hard difficulties. And then the scenario's rooms. And I always love the way that this game does its, how the rooms are connected with the icons there on the bottom. I also like how these two scenarios are very different, where this one is like inside of a house, and that first one was definitely in a woods and is very witchy, mystic type woods. So it looks like you're going to have a lot to do, a lot to play into this one. Very cool. Well, that is everything for the Circle Undone. I definitely really like this expansion. It adds a ton of stuff, a ton of new investigators, including Joe Diamond, one of a lot of people's favorite investigators. But then it also has that prologue in there, which is probably going to be good for bringing in new investigators, new players into the game. Well, I hope this unboxing has helped you to determine if this is something that you would be interested in getting for yourself. And until next time, everybody, I'll see you later.